Hi folks, Dr. Jim Gishwin here, Neanderthal climate denier, because I'm a scientist, okay? And about 15,000 scientists agree with me that it is basically become a religion, and it's not scientific fact. Climate hasn't changed more than 1/10 of a degree in 20 years, okay? And the oceans are falling, which means that there's ice being formed somewhere that's not being formed where these idiots are testing it. Okay? The North Pole moves. So, for instance, we here in Pensacola, we're 40 miles further north of the equator. Okay? Which means that the tracks of hurricanes change too. This is something they do not put into their little equations. But let's get on to politics, folks. Biden goes to the safest part of the border, invites Trump to come down and do the same thing Trump did before. All Biden's got to do is clip and paste the stuff from the stuff he discarded when he first went into office. He cannot sit there and do it, because then he'd be admitting that he could have done something all the time. Okay? It is the president's purview for immigration and naturalization policy. It is the president's purview. President can do it. That's it, bottom line. He just refuses to sit there and do anything, because then he'd have to admit that he was able to do something the whole time. Same thing he did when he sat there and canceled 94 actions Trump did to sit there and secure the border when he first came in. And why he has a moratorium on natural gas going to Western Europe, I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense at all. Those are our friends, not our enemies. Okay? And meanwhile, he sits there and sells our strategic oil to Chinese government company, CEFS, I think it's called, where his son was on the board, okay, when he was selling this our strategic oil to China. And he's not blockading Soviet Union. There's no... Every time he sits there and says there's harder and harder, things that we're doing against the Soviet Union, or Russia. It's almost the Soviet Union again now, isn't it? Old KBGB general in charge of things, Putin. They're selling Russian oil to India, refining it into gasoline, and we're buying it. Okay? There's all sorts of ways around things. I lived up in D.C. I worked up in D.C. 3 times, for goodness sakes. I know all the little shenanigans they pull. And up there, like I tell my kids in my class, I said, I walked around with a pocket full of Rose Garden tickets in one thing under Reagan, and a pocket of parking passes in the other pocket. That's the way they wheel and deal things up there, man. They're more interested in their parking spots and their perks than they are getting business done. And that's just an absolute fact. Take it from an old cubicle ranger. That's what we called ourselves, sitting in those little cubicles. I sit there, and when I made doctorate, sit there and said, hey, GSA things say that if you're a PhD, a doctor, you're allowed your own office. Of course, that didn't fly. I tried, though. You got to know the rules to get around them, okay? You can't get around rules unless you know them. Anyway, yeah, and I've pulled a few shady things myself, so I'm not going to sit there and brag about those. Those are what you call learning experiences in life. But we got NATO members now coming out saying that they want Ukraine in NATO. Now, this was the whole deal. What Putin sat there and threatened. He sat there and said, do not threaten, do not allow. He said, Ukraine should be neutral. Do not allow Ukraine into NATO, or I will threaten nuclear war. He's said it for years now. And now he's in the Ukraine, and now he's sitting there on the offensive, and the Ukrainians are running out of people. And the French are sitting there saying they will not take off the table the fact that they may put troops into Ukraine. And if they get attacked, NATO charter says an attack on one is an attack on all. They all sat there and rallied to our defense during 9/11. That was the attack on one. They all chipped in. Okay. I don't think this will happen this time. Okay. I think this is probably going to be the demise of NATO, letting too many people in. It's a good organization. It's a good alliance. Tag on it. Even though we were paying for most of it for many years, until Trump came in and told them to sit there and start paying their fair share. Just like UN, we pay most of their expenses too. And I pray to God we are not paying the expenses for that UN relief agency in Gaza. Okay? I don't care how we get the relief aid to the Palestinians that live there that aren't members of Hamas, the 10 or 12 of them that aren't. Okay? I don't care how we get the relief aid into them. We're getting pallets, we're dropping pallets in there, but we should not go through those people, that UN organization. They had a dozen people at least that were part of the 7 October invasion and massacre. How can we possibly sit there and support an organization like that? And how can we support the WHO that is controlled by Red China that helped propagate the daggone COVID virus? And now they're talking about Virus X. Are they preparing us for another lockdown? Are we thinking that maybe this weirdo president we got that likes to walk around naked in the old VP quarters up at the Naval Observatory, maybe now the White House too, we don't know. But the Secret Service code word for that, when he was walking around naked for the female Secret Service agents, was Cobra, Cobra, Cobra. And I hear Jill likes to walk around naked too. Who knows? What a strange couple. She sat there and just pushed him up there, elder abuse, just because she wanted to be first lady. What a family. The Biden crime family. The Biden bizarre family is more like it. Okay? He hasn't passed a single law, and he wants to sit there and think that he's pro-black and everything, and he passed that 1995 Law and Order bill that locked up more blacks than anyone else in any other time. And then Trump comes in, and with Kim Kardashian help, sits there, advice, sits there and does prison reform and changes it and releases more blacks. And he's given more money to black or historical black colleges than any other president. He's got a Jewish daughter-in-law. Okay? For God's sake. He's not an anti-Semite. He's not a racist. He's a nationalist. And that's why they hate him. Because the globalists out there in Davos, Switzerland, are just bound and determined. Now, this Trump thing, this MAGA thing, is caught on in other countries. Thank goodness. We're not standing alone. Did you see the speech of the president of Ecuador, the new president of Ecuador, who sat there and locked up all his gangs and sat there and had a budget surplus right afterwards? He sat there and said, we were in a dark place. We were the #1 murder capital of the world. He says, do not go down that dark road that we went down, because it is very hard to come back from it. And he was being very truthful about it. We had the president of Argentina go in front of the World Economic Forum, those Davos group, globalist Marxists, all those kingpins that want to sit there and make you eat crickets and put chips in your body here and there to control you. Nothing to make you healthier, to control you. It's all control, man. That's it. Globalist is control. They do not want to release power back. Okay? Once they get power, they ain't gonna let go of it. And you can see that. I'm afraid I'm afraid that the closer we get to the election, the more desperate the Democrats will get. There really aren't any Democrats anymore. These progressive Marxists are it. Might as well rename the party Progressive Marxism. Okay? How do we know he's not going to call martial law? Oh, the MAGA people, they're trying to overthrow us. Let's call out the National Guard. Everyone stay in your homes. Everyone believe what the government says. This stuff is coming down weird. And yeah, I got rid of it. Shows my fat chin now. All right. I may cover it up again at any moment. Little black magic marker right there on the screen. Anyway, take care, my friends. God bless you all. And I remain your humble servant. And remember, vote, vote, vote. And like a Democrat, vote as often as you can. Take care.